Welcome everyone to my comparison between the two Tamashii SH Figuarts Avengers Endgame Thanos. So the one on the right is the original version released in 2019, and the one on the left was released just a few days ago in 2020, known as the Final Battle Edition. So Bandai in total released 3 Thanos figures. The first one was the Infinity War one, and then they produced the Endgame first version and the Endgame second version. So one of the reasons why they re-released another Thanos is because the original figures of Endgame were released at the time when the Endgame movie was still being shown in the cinemas. So they actually didn't know how the character would look like in the film. And of course we found out it wasn't screen accurate because I think they just based it on promo photos and trailers and kind of guessed the way the character would look like before releasing the figure. And Thanos was actually one of the first figures to be released under the Endgame title. And then for the Final Battle Edition, they released also the Captain America, Iron Man figure, and also this month another 4 figure, all of them to try and give it a more screen accurate version of the one we saw in the Final Battle. So obviously the MCU Infinity Saga came to an end in Endgame, so for Thanos this is pretty important that they get a very screen accurate figure. So really in this whole video, I'm going to be looking at the armor, the face sculpts, the accessories, and also whether it's worth the upgrade to the Final Battle Edition. So the first impressions is obviously there is a difference in the color. So looking at the original version, you can see that it has a more cleaner gold color, a more plain armor, and really it's a more generic look of Thanos. And also you can see the purple is lighter. If we look at the Final Battle Edition, and they've gone for the same tone as the other figures, so a more darker, dirtier, grittier look on the armor, and I'm pretty sure it's more screen accurate looking at all the details around the shoulders. And also I want to say that the original version, you can see it has the Infinity Gauntlet, and those of you who of course watched the Endgame movie will know that Thanos actually never wore the gauntlet in the whole movie of Endgame. So the Final Battle one is actually more screen accurate, but if you want a more generic Thanos, maybe you don't have any Thanos figures in your collection and you want one with the gauntlet, this would be a good choice. Also look at the height. I think they're actually very similar. If I just push the legs together to make them as tall as they can. Maybe the Final Battle Edition is slightly taller, but I think it's just the way the armor is built. And if we put them face to face, you can see it's very similar again. I'm pretty sure they use the same sculptor mold, at least for most of the materials. On the back, again, very similar. But just looking at the shoulders, you can see that the armor on the Final Battle Edition seems more wider. And the one on the right, the original version, seems smaller. And if we take a look also at the purple colors, so the Final Battle one has a darker color, the original one is lighter as well, which is the same as the Infinity War version. And I also want to say that the Final Battle Edition has movement on the shoulders, so you can actually remove the shoulder pads. There's also these 2 arm pads which can be removed as well, and also there's 2 armbands that can be removed as well. And I think that's more screen accurate because towards the end of the Endgame Final Battle, Thanos was of course a lot more damaged and a lot of things had fallen off. So the original version obviously is all stuck on, it's just built into one armor. So none of the shoulder pads or armor bands are actually removable. And of course looking at the paint, there is different shadings. So even in the center we get this kind of like purple paint on it, and then we get all the black paint and also bits that look like they're scratching off to give it that effect. And then for the original version, there's actually none of the black paint or purple paint at the front. And if we take a look at the back, this is what they both look like. Again, different details, extra paint on the Final Battle Edition. So overall, just looking at it in the first impressions, I'll probably say the Final Battle one is more screen accurate and better. And obviously the next thing we want to look at is the face sculpts. So I'm going to bring them in. So the original version has this generic face, very normal, which is actually pretty accurate to Thanos. and it's the same face sculpt for the original, just with a different color. So just out of the box, they are both pretty similar in terms of the build and the mold, but obviously a lot more detail and screen accurate for the Final Battle edition. So now let's compare the alternate face sculpts of both the Thanos figures. So the original version has a smiling, smirking face, as well as the angry, aggressive face. And it's the same for the Final Battle edition, the same expression with a smiling, smirking face, as well as a aggressive one. Now the difference is that the original version, they are only face swaps. So you can see on the back, you can only swap it out with the original one and you have to wear the helmet. Whereas the Final Battle edition is a full head swap, so you can only take it out for the full head swap of the original version, meaning both of them cannot wear the helmet, which is actually more screen accurate because towards the end of the Endgame battle, obviously Thanos wasn't wearing the helmet, but that means the original version is only a face swap, so you cannot wear the original one without the helmet. So there are some positives and negatives on both the face swaps, but in terms of the accuracy of the sculpts, I really like both of them. But of course, for the original version, if you want to wear a Thanos without the helmet, you'll probably have to put in the Infinity War head sculpt if you have that figure as well. So that's the only option. So now let's take a look at the alternate hands that come with both the Thanos figures. So for the original version, we get 4 alternate hands, and for the Final Battle edition, we get a lot more, which is 6 alternate hands. So let's first take a look at the original figure, and this came with 2 alternate right hands. One is a more of a open grapple hand, and one is to hold on to the blade. And also for the left hand, we get the open palm gauntlet, as well as a more of a grapple gauntlet. And then for the Final Battle edition, we actually get a right and left hand of a open palm, and also a right and left hand to hold on to the blade. And of course, we get the alternate right arm, which is the one with the nano gauntlet, which is in a click pose, which I really like. I like the detail of this. And for that, we also get a alternate hand, which is the one with the Infinity Stones. So you get a lot more for the Final Battle edition and a lot more variety. But that doesn't mean the original version is bad. You also get a lot of variety poses with different hands as well. And in case you're wondering, for the Infinity War Thanos, it's actually in the middle with an extra 5 alternate hands, which is 1 more than the original Endgame Thanos. And now we can take a look at the differences between the accessory weapon, which is the blade. And the original version, you can see, is basically 2 pieces of silver plastic placed together. It's very plain and there's not a lot of detail on it. Whereas the Final Battle edition is a much improved blade. It looks a lot more menacing, more detail, and much better paint on it. And it looks a lot more realistic than the original version. And what I like about this version is also you get a piece of rock, which is to place the blade inside. And you can also put the helmet on top to create a screen accurate Thanos from Endgame. Whereas the original version is only used to put into the right hand. So now we can take a look at the best poses for both of the Thanos figures. So I now have the original Thanos in one of its better poses, in my opinion. So for the right hand, it's holding onto the blade. On the left hand is the grapple gauntlet hand. And for the head sculpt is the aggressive face. Obviously, this is not a very screen accurate Endgame Thanos, but it definitely has a lot of variety in terms of the posing. And for the Final Battle edition of the Thanos, you get a lot more variety and iconic poses, like him wearing the nano gauntlet and using the alternate smirking face, and also placing the helmet on top of the blade and making Thanos sit on the base. So this one is more screen accurate and I like this kind of pose a lot more. So now for my final thoughts between the 2 Endgame Thanos SH Figuarts. So in my opinion, if you have the Infinity War Thanos, you may not mind picking up the original Thanos for Endgame. That's because the look is different this time, from the helmet to the armor to the blade, and even the color and tone of the Infinity Gauntlet is different. So if you're looking for something that's a generic Thanos look, but not in the form of a comic figure, you may look to pick this one up, as he does have the gauntlet. And also if you're looking for a Thanos without the helmet, you can use the alternate head sculpts of the Infinity War figure. But obviously, if you want a more movie and screen accurate version, you will go for the Final Battle edition. He looks a lot more menacing with that different shade and grittier look to the armor. And obviously this time you don't get the gauntlet on the left hand, you get the nano gauntlet on the right hand. As for the head sculpts, you do get one without the helmet, or two actually, and both of them are the one without the helmet, which means you can place it on top of the blade. Again, that's more accurate to the film. You also get the bases for him to sit on, and of course the blade is a lot more detailed and it's much better than the original version. So overall, I'm one that prefers accuracy to the movie. So in my collection, I'm going to have the Infinity War version and the Final Battle Endgame version. But that doesn't mean the original Endgame Thanos is a bad figure. So that's my comparison between the two Endgame Thanos SH Figuarts. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more collections, news and reviews. Thanks for watching and hope to see you soon.